The hall was silent, the kind of silence that presses against the chest and makes breathing feel like a crime. Soldiers lined the walls in neat rows, their uniforms sharp, their gazes fixed forward. At the center of it all stood an admiral, a man known for his iron will and his voice that carried like thunder through the ranks. He had demanded answers, demanded proof, demanded respect. And before him, under the crushing weight of eyes and authority, stood a woman who seemed too ordinary to be there, too small for the storm that swirled around her. She looked steady, though her hands trembled behind her back. And then, with a motion that seemed to rip through the silence itself, she reached for the hem of her shirt and raised it. Gasps cut through the air as jagged scars stretched across her ribs, deep red lines carved into her flesh by a past battle no one had spoken of. The Admiral froze, his face stripped of power, his words stolen. Because in that moment, those scars said everything she never had to. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable story of sacrifice and resilience, I want to pause here. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in honoring the unseen strength of people who fight battles no one notices, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. These stories deserve to be remembered, and your support helps keep them alive. Her name was Lieutenant Claire Donovan, and for months she had been treated as though she were nothing more than a token presence, a quiet reminder that the Navy had opened its doors to women. She was respected in name, but rarely in spirit, her assignments often mundane, her victories ignored. Some of her superiors whispered that she was lucky to wear the uniform at all. They didn't know the nights she lay awake remembering the ambush, the fire, the pain that ripped through her chest as shrapnel tore into her ribs. They didn't know the months of recovery, the sleepless nights when her body screamed against healing, or the way she trained herself to stand straight again, even when every breath burned. They didn't know because she never told them. Claire carried her pain in silence, her scars hidden beneath fabric and discipline. That day, in front of 200 sailors and 20 officers, she had been called out. Doubted publicly by an admiral who had questioned her courage, her worth, her right to stand among warriors. His words had cut sharper than any blade. He had demanded proof, demanded to know what she had ever endured that gave her the right to command respect. Claire's hands had trembled, not from fear of him, but from the weight of memory pressing against her ribs. And when she finally revealed the truth, she wasn't just showing scars. She was showing nights of agony, mornings of determination, and 1,000 silent battles fought when no one was watching. The Admiral, a man hardened by decades of service, had seen men bleed, had seen men fall. But in that moment he was unmade by the sight of a woman who had never sought his approval, never begged for acknowledgement. She simply showed him reality, and reality humbled him. He lowered his head. Around them, the silence thickened, until one by one soldiers began to shift, their eyes no longer filled with doubt, but with something Claire had waited years to feel: respect. What followed was not glory, not sudden fame, but a quiet change that echoed far louder than applause. Claire went back to her duties, but the way people looked at her was different. No longer invisible, no longer dismissed, she had become a symbol of resilience. Others, young cadets, quiet recruits, overlooked women, saw in her the proof that scars were not weakness, but the fiercest kind of strength. Her presence at the gate, in the mess hall, on the deck, became a reminder that every uniform hides stories, and that the body remembers battles long after medals have been forgotten. The Admiral would later speak of that day in private, admitting to a close aide that he had been wrong to question her. He said her scars had taught him more about service than years of commanding fleets. He said leadership wasn't always loud, wasn't always decorated. It was sometimes hidden beneath silence, revealed only when pushed to the edge. And in that truth, Claire's story became something larger than herself. It wasn't about a single scarred woman. It was about every soldier, sailor or officer who had ever been doubted, dismissed, or underestimated. Her scars became her armor, not because they were meant to be displayed, but because they carried the weight of survival. Every day she stood taller, breathed deeper, and walked prouder. And others followed. The quiet ones, the overlooked ones, found courage in her presence. in the way she had stood before the most powerful man in the room and silenced him without raising her voice. So when we remember her story, it's not just about what happened that day. It's about the truth that strength is often hidden, that scars are not signs of weakness but proof of battles endured. It's about the fact that sometimes the deepest wounds are invisible until the world demands proof. And when that proof is given, it cannot be denied. If this story touched your heart, I ask you now, like, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. Because stories like Claire's remind us why courage matters, why respect is earned in silence, and why no scar should ever be hidden in shame. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Drop a comment below. Tell us what this story meant to you, or share a moment when someone's hidden strength changed how you saw them. Your words might inspire someone else who needs to be seen. Thank you for being here. And thank you for remembering that true courage often lives in silence until it is revealed.